This customer rolled in for an inspection before he was headed out on a cross-country road trip and said he just wants the tire pressure checked and mentioned nothing about the rusted off lower control arm. The owner of this car came in saying that his car wouldn't start anymore, and when asked about when he last had his timing belt replaced, he just replied, "Well, I've never replaced it because from what I've heard, they're made to last the entire lifespan of the vehicle." And this customer rolled in complaining about his car being bumpier than normal and wanted it checked. Customer came in saying that he has a strange brake noise and that the brakes don't feel as firm as they used to. And this is what happens when car owners let quick fix repair shops fix their cars extra fast. They forget stuff they're not supposed to, like axle nuts, for example. Customer states that his nephew had done some work on his car recently and that he's been getting a burnt rubber smell while driving ever since. And the owner of this car hadn't changed oil in over 10 years, and this is what that ended up looking like. Customer rolled in saying that she hit what looked like oversized decorative garden mushrooms while pulling out of her friend's driveway in a rush to drop her kids off at school. And when the customer comes in requesting an alignment and nothing else, you just nod and go, "Yes, sir." And this customer came in saying that he has started having a bonka clonka sound since he went on a fishing trip to a nearby lake. This car owner rolled in saying that his buddy had helped him fix a bumpy rear end recently and just wanted to double check with the mechanic if he would pass an inspection. The owner of this car finally came in to get some new tires installed after driving on factory tires for almost a decade. And the owner of this truck was on their way home from work when they suddenly heard a loud metallic noise from the back, and then the truck stopped. This Ford Focus came in for a valve cover job, and this is what the mechanic discovered as he opened up the engine. Do you think the owner needs a new motor or just a bit of cleaning? Comment below. And this is how you know that the CV Axle has officially handed in its resignation. Customer states tire leak after hitting a piece of wood on their driveway. And this Mazda came in with a bad engine knock after the customer had installed a new radiator together with his best friend a few weeks before. Customer states, "I think I hit a turkey, please check and repair fog lights." And this oil filter had been on there long enough that when the mechanic pulled it off and set it on the drain trolley, it looked less like a filter and more like a fossilized dinosaur turd. Customer states, "Car sounds like a giant mosquito that had too much Taco Bell." Customer came in saying that they think they hit something last night on their way home, but they're not quite sure and came in to have it checked out. And this mechanic was replacing a fender liner on his vehicle when he accidentally discovered the secret hiding place of all 10 mils. Customer states, "Knocking sounds at all speeds." After 9 bottles of engine oil, I wonder what it might be. And the owner of this car rolled into the shop saying that he had tried tweaking the gear ratio by himself, but had just made a mess and now needs a new differential. And this guy had installed some new ball joints, all by himself, using a YouTube tutorial. This car had a brand spanking new engine installed at another shop, but had to come in again because of a transmission leak. Apparently, the other shop had tried fixing the leak by just slapping on a bit of silicone. Customer states, truck's been a little rough on the highway lately, vibrates a bit, and since yesterday it just won't move anywhere anymore. Customer states, was out hunting elk when deers broke into his car and tore up the interior as the car was parked for a week on a parking spot near a forest. Customer states, brakes aren't as firm as they used to be. Can you check it out? Customer states, drove through water, need engine drained and oil replaced. The customer had told the shop the SUV just needed a wheel alignment and maybe some new shocks. The mechanic put it on the lift, got underneath it, and found orange ratchet straps holding the rear suspension, wood pieces inside the springs, a loose steering linkage, sketchy wiring running in every direction possible, and a bent exhaust that looked kinda like a piece of modern art. This car was in because the owner had attempted to do a front-end adjustment by himself, using some tools he'd gotten off of a Chinese website for cheap. But the instructions were in Chinese, so the customer had just improvised instead, which ended up costing him new control arms and ball joints. This customer came in saying that their car has started to run really rough, despite changing oil according to the interval stated in the car manual. And this customer complained about squeaky brakes. And this car rolled in with some starting issues after a friend of the owner's had installed a new stereo and sound system in it. Customer states, did my own oil change and didn't want to overfill the engine with oil. Can you make sure everything looks alright? This 2008 Ford F-150 came in to get a new oil pan gasket when the mechanic discovered some treats inside the oil pan. Apparently, the truck even drove in like this. And this oil pickup filter had been pulled from an engine and was so clogged with metallic debris and plastic chunks that it was barely a filter anymore. Seems like the engine had been running on pure optimism for quite a while. Customer states, starting issues. The mechanics discovered that the customer had installed a wiring harness by himself and had removed the fuse box in the process, but had forgotten to reinstall it afterwards. The owner of this car had apparently fixed a tire leak, all by himself using some good old silver tape. This car came in with a suspension noise, and when the mechanic went to remove the control arm bushing, it was so dried out and hardened that the moment he popped it free, it launched itself to the other side of the garage. Customer states, there's a loud noise when going over bumps. Customer states, clunking noises when turning. This car came in because the owner said the front end had been feeling a little loose lately. The mechanic got underneath, grabbed the front section of the undercarriage and found he could rock the entire thing up and down with his hands because the front frame section had rusted completely away from the rest of the car. This car came in with a broken camshaft after the customer had just upgraded from a stock camshaft but had over-tightened the cam bolts and also kept the engine at 7,500 RPM for longer than recommended while benching the car on a dyno. And this customer came in saying, every time I press the brakes, it feels mushy. Can you check it out? This customer came in because they had issues with poor braking. Apparently, they had done an 800-mile or 1,300-kilometer trip with these brakes. Customer states, exhaust has been a little louder than usual, but my cousin just did the whole system last month, so it's probably just settling in. Customer came in with their car saying that the transmission had stopped working all of a sudden while they were at a McDonald's drive-thru. The mechanics found the transmission to be totally wrecked, and the customer ended up getting a new one installed through their insurance company. The owner of this van didn't have all the parts to fix his leaking exhaust, so he just worked with what he had. Choo choo! All aboard! This customer complained about their car feeling jerky every time they hit the gas. This Infiniti came in with some suspension issues, and when the mechanic looked at it, he found the strut tower looking like this, with a full wrench welded right into it and all. Now that's a piece of art. The owner of this car said that they have a minor leak from their radiator, but that they'd use some stop leak to fix it temporarily. Yeah, I don't think that's doing much for you, bud. Customer states, ever since I changed the oil last month, the car has almost overheated a couple of times. Can you check it out and make sure it's nothing serious? And this Lexus CT came in because it just wouldn't start. Once the mechanics removed the spark plugs, they discovered that the engine was full of coolant due to a bad head gasket. And this car had gotten some new CV axle boots installed at another shop. Whoever did them had skipped the part where you trim the rubber to length and just ran tie wraps around the ends instead. Fast work if nothing else. When your oil change looks like this, you better pray the insurance gods go easy on you. And this customer came in saying, I don't know what the hell's going on, but the car keeps pulling to the right. Can you check it out? And this customer complained about their glove box not wanting to remain closed. The owner of this truck came in saying, I have some brake noise, but my uncle just checked them last month and said they were totally fine. This customer rolled in with their car because they had some major brake issues after their friend had helped them renovate the brake lines, and this is the mess that the mechanics found. The owner of this car complained about it being bumpier than normal after their son had borrowed it for the weekend to go see his girlfriend. And this car had some starting issues, and the mechanic discovered it was because ants had apparently built a nest in the fuse box. The owner of this Jeep Wagoneer came in because the brake pedal apparently just... The mechanic working on this Prius had it in for a no-start concern and found a second car battery wired in back there, sitting in a whole jungle of cables. And this customer had some troubles getting their window to shut. Turned out to be a faulty power window control module. Customer came in saying that they've been feeling a vibration in their steering wheel ever since they raced a guy for a parking spot 2 weeks ago. This customer had their Mazda 5 in for a new ball joint at another shop, but had to come in again because the shop apparently didn't weld this one like they did last time. The mechanic who sat down in this one found 3 GPS units on the dash, 2 window-mounted cup holders, a full set of wooden steering knobs, and more 12-volt adapters than what you'd find in a camping store. And this customer came in needing 4 new rims and tires after they claimed to have hit a light post that had fallen down on the road while they were going 90 miles an hour. And this guy was doing an oil change on his Subaru, but as he was rolling over to get out, he accidentally pressed the remote starter on the car keys, and this is what happened. Luckily, he shut it off on time before any serious damage had been done to the engine. Customer states, something's wrong with my windshield. The mechanic who sat down in this one grabbed the steering wheel to adjust its position, and it just kept going. This customer had recently refurbished their brake rotors and got a new brake pads installed at another shop, but they had ignored doing anything about the rusty brake shields, which had ended up causing some damage to the inside of the rims. The owner of this Jeep Liberty came in because their 4-wheel drive had stopped working after their grandson had borrowed it for a couple of months. The mechanic found the front drive shaft to be mysteriously missing. This mechanic had his 2022 Yukon in because it ran bad and white smoke came out of it. Apparently, the engine had been filled with almost 3 gallons or 11 liters worth of oil. The mechanic who got underneath this one found rust holes in the frame, brake fluid soaking the entire inside of the wheel, and enough general chaos that he probably needed a minute before writing up the inspection report. The owner of this car came in to get a new Bluetooth stereo installed, but when the mechanics saw all these bugs crawling around, they had to bring out the hazmat suits. And this customer came in complaining about a vibration when driving on the highway. And this customer had an oil leak after hitting something small on his way back from work. And you can never have too many clamps on your exhaust, right? And this truck rolled in for its yearly oil and filter change with a missing tire and a pretty messed up wheel well. When asked about what had happened, the customer just replied, "I went to Vegas for the weekend, but the rest is a bit blurry." This mechanic was doing a quick inspection of this car when he discovered that the customer was driving around on some homemade slicks. This customer came in because they just couldn't open their window. The mechanic who went to swap the oil filter on this one pulled it off and found the factory plastic protective sleeve still wrapped around it, and it had apparently been on there since the last oil change, causing the oil pump to go out. This car came in to get a new tire repair kit, but when the mechanics opened the trunk, they found that a mouse had turned the old repair kit into his home. And this is how you know that you need new brake pads. This customer came in with their '07 Corolla complaining about a knocking noise when coming to a full stop. And this tire had a lot more going on than just the one small hole it showed up with. This customer rolled into the shop with a major oil leak after a neighbor had borrowed their car to move some stuff from their garage, but forgot to mention that the garage was out in the middle of nowhere. This customer came in saying, "It's not really a problem, but sometimes my brakes squeak pretty badly. Could you check it out and make sure it's nothing serious?" Customer states, "Car clunks and vibrates when turning. Please advise." The mechanic found the issue to be caused by a worn out lower control arm. Customer states, "Need new set of tires." The owner of this car had apparently been putting off the brakes for quite a while now, and when the mechanic finally pulled the wheel, the rotor had gone from a brake rotor to more of a decorative metal piece in a rust museum. And this customer came in saying that they have a strange thump whenever they turn right, ever since their wife borrowed the car to go grocery shopping the other day. And this customer had apparently been driving behind a logging truck for a bit too long. These mechanics were just left in this Audi Q7 to do an oil change on it when they got a little surprise. Apparently, the owner had recently replaced the driver's side airbag at a different local garage because they were trying to get the airbag light to turn off, but had damaged the wiring sockets in the process, which caused the airbag to deploy. Customer states, "Hit a blown out tire on the highway, and now I have a strange knock every time I hit a bump in the road." Customer states, "The rear seat won't stay in place." And this car came in with a mystery fluid leak from the drivetrain area, and when the mechanic got underneath it, he found a transmission mount bolt leaking blue fluid, in a place that blue fluid has absolutely no place to be. The owner of this car came in because they said it ran rough. The mechanics asked the customer when they last had an oil change, and the customer just replied that he didn't know. And this truck came in because it wouldn't start anymore after the owner had installed some new extra lights by himself. And this truck came in because it randomly turns itself off and the check engine light is on. Turns out the cylinder 8 had a broken valve stem that caused the issue. Thankfully, the customer's insurance company covered the cost of a new engine. Timmy! Get your fingers out of that truck right now! And this mechanic found the inside of this rim looking like it had lost a pretty serious argument with a concrete curb. Customer came in for a new timing belt saying, "Hey, I need you to get her done for me by 9, okay? Because me and Big Tater Corndog are going gator hunting this evening." The owner of this minivan complained about the rear door being hard to close, saying, "I tried slamming it shut a few times, but it just got worse." Customer states, car sounds weird after having been at another shop. This Kia Soul came in for an oil change and strange noises coming from the engine. Apparently, the issue was a loose bottom alternator bolt. And this car came in for a simple oil change, when the mechanic pulled the drain plug and found something that looked a lot more like a green smoothie than engine oil. The owner of this Dodge Daytona lives out in Vermont and rolled in for its yearly service when the mechanic discovered that it had quite the rust problems and had started falling apart pretty badly. And this Kenworth T800 semi-truck came in for some new bearings. This car rolled in for a routine inspection, and when the mechanic got underneath it, he found that a rust hole in the muffler had been sitting right next to the gas tank for long enough to melt away a pretty decent chunk of it. And this car came in for an oil change, but the mechanic noticed that it needed some new engine mounts too, but the customer apparently just said, "Listen buddy, don't try and screw me over, okay? Just give me the goddamn oil change so I can get out of here." This engine had definitely seen some better days, and when the mechanic pulled the oil pan, the inside looked like a metal scrapyard that someone had poured black molasses all over. This car came in for a dunking sound after another shop had done a front-end alignment on it just a week ago. This customer came in saying, "I don't usually come into repair shops because my mechanic friend does all my work, but I just came in to ask what do you think might be the cause for all this brake squeaking that I've been getting recently." And this customer complained about clunking and rattling noises from the front wheels. This customer had been on his way to visit his parents for the holidays when the car started running a little rough on the highway. He pulled in at a shop nearby, and when the mechanic pulled the oil drain plug, out came something that looked a lot more like hot chocolate than motor oil. This car was in because the battery kept draining itself and the right side taillights and license plate lights didn't work at all. The mechanic discovered that the customer recently had installed a new muffler by himself, but one of the holding brackets were broken, so he just bolted the muffler straight onto the undercarriage and pierced right through a wiring harness. Customer states, "Loud noise when braking, please advise." And this car came in because of a clunking noise coming from the wheels. The owner of this car had been on his way to the airport when the AC stopped blowing cold, and he figured he could wait until he got back. But by the time he took it to the shop, the refrigerant had been gone for a while and the compressor hadn't taken it well. Customer states that he installed new brake pads by himself, but has had a terrible brake squeak ever since and thinks it might be the brake shims. The mechanics found that the brake pads were installed the wrong way, so the customer was technically correct. This Honda came in with an exhaust leak after the customer had done a pretty creative repair job by himself.